Why do 70% of critical thinkers ditch Disney Plus? Because they found something better. In today's economy, every dollar counts. So what's worth subscribing to? Let's compare Disney Plus and no Soundbites Allowed. With Disney Plus, you're shelling out $140 a year for virtue signaling shows targeting mythical modern audiences. Plus, a theater visit could cost you $40 or more. Ouch. Now imagine a platform where fresh perspectives, insightful interviews, and engaging discussions are at your fingertips. That's no Soundbites Allowed. And the best part? It's free with an option to support only if you choose. While Disney Plus ticks off virtue signal checkboxes, no Soundbites Allowed offers real talk and sharp analysis. Perfect for those who crave depth and clarity. Why break the bank for entertainment? Subscribe to No Soundbites Allowed and enjoy meaningful content without the hefty price tag. All right, everybody. Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed. I am your host, Michael Voss, the political dragon here in our offices in the Bronx, New York. Today is August 11th. It's 2:30 p.m. We're right on time, Eastern Standard Time, and we're happy to be here with you. I hope everyone's having a good start to the new week. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things. There's some breaking news. There's a lot of stuff that's happening in the trend in overseas that will be affecting America. There's national security concerns. And of course, there is the election here in the United States, plus some other news that is going on. We're going to try and cover all of that and discuss the way that all of this is affecting the United States, how the United States is affecting the rest of the world. Plus, of course, we're going to be taking your phone calls, your chats, your super chats. We're going to be speaking with you about all of that. And I hope if this is the first time that you're seeing our channel, I want to welcome you. I thank you for being part of the audience. We do appreciate you. We want you to know that we do long-form political commentary. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 years now that we've been doing this, we reach out across the world to hear from you. No matter where you are in the world, we get people from Saudi Arabia, from Sweden, from England, from everywhere and across the United States to share in the First Amendment, the free speech, to let our leaders know that we are paying attention and to better understand what's happening and how things are affecting each and every one of us. And we do that because we believe in you. Now, we hope that you'll enjoy that and that you'll join us. But we're going to get right into the show here today. Now, as I mentioned, there is a lot going on. We're going to be going over some breaking news. Again, for those who are seeing the show for the first time, we're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, most major news media. Not on Twitter because I don't feel like paying for extra money just so I can stream on their platform. But otherwise, we're on almost all the major mainstream news social media. And we're going to be talking about some breaking news here. And then we go into the international and then into the domestic, just so you have an idea if it's the first time you're with us. And yes, the phone is hooked up. It is ready. So if you want to call in, you can go to 929-715-8569 to be able to reach us to leave your comments. And we look forward to seeing that every time. Starting off, we want to go into some breaking news here. One of the things that we see that's come out just now is, or this morning, that we're seeing that an individual who has been motivated by a lot of the hate speech. And I know there's a lot of people who talk about hate speech. I'm not... First Amendment, you have a right to have hate speech. You don't have a right to take violent action against other people because of your speech or to use that speech to incite violence. There is a big difference. But remember, it was 2 weeks ago, right after the assassination attempt on President Trump, something that was only covered by the news media for roughly about 3-4 days, and they stopped talking about the assassination. It's now old history. No one's talking about that anymore because it would affect the election, and it did affect polling And so the news media stopped talking about it. Even though it's still something being discussed in Congress, it is still something that is a massive concern for the United States. Even though there has been a second assassination attempt against Donald Trump, and we're seeing that both of these, it seems, were being motivated by Iran, a nation that has threatened to kill the United States, to destroy the United States, is looking to destroy our ally Israel. But no one wants to talk about that part of it because, again, that might make you vote anything but Democrat. And, of course, the mainstream news media doesn't want to do that. But we're seeing that when we were talking about then, the media said we have to, and many of the political leaders said, we have to tone down the rhetoric. We have to lower the temperature in America. Well, they were saying that about the presidential election. What about everyday people? This Jewish man was stabbed in New York. He's shouting "Free Palestine." He is a pro-Hamas supporter. And he's running around in New York, anti-Semitic slurs, and stabs a man, tries to stab another man, so attempted to stab and perhaps kill two people last night at 2 a.m. And you have to wonder to yourself, where is all that talk about the pro-Palestine or pro-Hamas movement? The Democratic Socialists of America, the people who block off our roads, who tried to have insurrectionist autonomous zones in our colleges pushing and teaching students that genocide is okay if the politics matches up with what they like. What about that rhetoric? We don't want to talk about that. The news media doesn't want to talk about what's that causation. This man, as we can see here, a knifeman allegedly approached the victim around 2 a.m. Eastern Parkway and Kingston Avenue, shouting, "Free Palestine, do you want to die?" before stabbing one victim and attempting to stab another. This is what the rhetoric got us. This is what all those individuals who are blocking off those roads right after October 7th, here in the United States, in New York City, the Democratic Socialists of America blocked off bridges, were protesting in Midtown Manhattan, demanding and continuing to demand that we go and support Hamas, a terrorist organization that killed 34 Americans. 22 were taken captive. We're talking about 9 British were killed. 17 were taken hostage. 54 nations have people who have been taken hostage by Hamas, and many of them continue to be held hostage 10 months later as they get tortured and sexually abused every day, according to the UN. And the Democrats don't want to talk about this. What is it that the Biden administration, Harris administration, what are they doing? These hostages have not been returned. 3 Americans have been returned. 1 was a child, good for the PR for Hamas. 2 were women, good for the PR for Hamas. And that's it. And they won't give up any of the hostages, including those that we believe some 60 out of the remaining 114 are expected to be dead. We believe that every single American that Hamas has taken prisoner is dead. Not because of Israel, because if it was Israel, Hezbollah, and Hamas, they'd be pushing that in front of every single camera that they could. They would be providing the evidence showing how Israel was so evil, so bad. They would want us to know that. No. They have hidden this and they have kept this quiet because they know that it was due to the torture, the sexual abuse, the fact that Hamas has killed many of the hostages. No one wants to talk about that. But here in the United States, because we're not talking about Hamas, the terrorist organization, because we're not having a conversation about how they are torturing American citizens as we speak, and the Biden-Harris administration is doing nothing about it, now we can't talk about the Democratic Socialists of America, the colleges, as they promote genocide, which leads to individuals like we see here, where this man goes into Brooklyn and walks off the train and starts to try and instigate an attack, and then just winds up attacking people when his inflammatory language doesn't start a fight. He just whips out a knife and starts trying to stab people anyway. These things are connected. They're directly connected, because I do believe that the commentary about Hamas is inflammatory, that it is inciting violence. I think the actions by the Democratic Socialists of America, by Harvard and Columbia, Binghamton University, UCLA, that they are inciting violence, that they are feeding into this. And the very same people who told us, well, we need to tone this down, have said nothing about the Democrats, the far left, that are saying we have to help Hamas. Why? Because 101,000 Dearborn, Michigan Democrats might not vote Democrat if they do not see the progressive wing doing more to help Hamas. That's the truth. Because Michigan is in play, Democrats do not want to talk about this. They do not want to hold back these individuals trying to promote violence. And that's sad. That's crazy. I do see we have a few comments here. Mike Bowie has joined us, and Mike Bowie says, also, there were stabbings and riots in London. Oh, no, I haven't forgotten about that. Again, we're starting with the breaking news, but what's been happening in London has been going on for a little while. But you are correct, Mike Bowie. There's a lot of stabbings and riots in London right now. Democrat Mike is here with us, and he says, hello. Reports are that Trump is regretting his VP pick. Well, that's from the left. I'm sure that they do say that. According to the left, Democrat Mike, Trump regrets everything. Every Republican regrets everything, always. And Orange Man bad. I get that, but that doesn't really mean much, does it? This is very interesting, And Democrat Mike, you may say that J.D. Vance is a terrible pick, but at the same time, Governor Tim Walz is a horrendous pick, because he doesn't represent the center of America. He doesn't represent the center of Democrats. And as we will get into, he is an example of stolen valor, which we now have evidence of. He is someone who has lied to the American people. Besides the lie about Joe Biden being a mental giant, being sharp as a tack, besides that lie, Tim Walz has his own sets of lies that he has given out there, trying to bolster his record by lying about his actions and his cowardice. And I will say that directly. Tim Walz is a coward. I know some people would say, and a traitor. I won't go there. He's not a traitor. He is a coward, and his stolen valor is only part of the example that he is a coward. But we will get into that as we go through the rest of the show. Democrat Mike goes on to say, if he knew Kamala, who knew? If he knew Kamala was going to take over, Democrat Mike is trying to say that if Donald Trump knew that Kamala Harris was going to take over, I wonder if he would have gone in a different direction. Who knows? Doesn't really matter, because that's irrelevant at this point. Lots of things might have changed. If Democrats had the opportunity to actually vote for a candidate and they knew that Joe Biden was a mental zombie, we'd be in an entirely different situation, wouldn't we? And Kamala Harris wouldn't have been picked. Remember, it was 3 months ago, Kamala Harris was being, all the Democrats, the very same Democrats that today are telling you that Kamala Harris is brilliant and the best thing since sliced bread, were also the same people who 3 months ago were saying to the American people that they need to replace Kamala Harris as VP because she's a complete failure, that she had no positivity to her and no one liked her. But now that she's the only choice Democrats have, she's the best thing ever. She suddenly becomes Ray Palpatine, and she's got to be, the bestest ever woman, glass ceiling, has to win, or you're a sexist racist. It's so duplicitous, but that's another question altogether. Going on, Graham says, Democrat Mike says he doesn't believe, Graham's talking to Democrat Mike. Democrat Mike wants to say that he doesn't care what other people believe, it's the truth. Here's the thing, Democrat Mike, there is no such thing as your truth. There is the truth. And quite honestly, you're espousing your feelings. You're telling us what you believe might be true. That's your feeling. That's not the truth. You're confusing the two. I understand you're a Democrat and it seems like a progressive. So you believe this nonsense that people have individual truths. There isn't. There is the truth and there are your feelings and opinions. Two very separate things. So just want to point that out. Graham has a few comments here. I'm trying to catch up to some of the comments here. Wow, the comments are coming in fast and furious right now, folks. It seems that Graham and Democrat Mike are having a little bit of a back and forth, which I'm perfectly fine with in the comments. By the way, everyone is welcome to leave a comment, whether they're on the left, the right, libertarian, independent, it doesn't matter. You're a political junkie, you know nothing about politics. You're all welcome to leave comments. Of course, if you super chat, I'll be able to see it faster and be able to respond to you faster. But everyone is welcome on this channel, so we're not upset with Democrat Mike sharing his points of view. He doesn't make a compelling argument about it, but he's perfectly fine to make his case. That's how we learn. That's how we get to understand what's going on. Let me see here. Mike Bowie says Joe Biden belongs on Mount Rushmore. According to Nancy Pelosi, and a lot of people may not have heard that, this week Nancy Pelosi in an interview was asked what she thought about Joe Biden. And her answer is that she thinks that Joe Biden was one of the greatest presidents we have ever seen, which there is no polling that reflects that, not one. None of the polls say that idea. And she went on to say that she believes that Joe Biden should be on Mount Rushmore, that he should be added to the Mount Rushmore of greatest presidents for the United States. An idea no one else shares. And this is the same woman who admits that she was kicking this man, the same man, Joe Biden. She was the reason he got kicked out of the presidency. She was the one who was leading the charge to kick him to the curb, but now she says he's the greatest thing ever. Just about 2 weeks ago, you were telling everybody that he had lost. He was lost. So you can't trust that. They will spout anything that gives them positivity. They will spout anything that will move them forward. And they deny and ignore things that aren't positive for them. But we'll get into all of that because there's a lot. But again, we're detracting, and this happens a lot. When you're talking about the reality of what's going on in this nation, when you're talking about the actual reality of the candidates, their positives, their negatives, when you actually get into that, and when we look at the consequences of many of the policies that have come from the left and the reaction of the left, then we hear people come in and they say, well, no, we want to talk about something else. We can't talk about Donald Trump and the fact that Democrats created an environment where people are so upset with MAGA, they're so upset with Israel, that they believe the only action they have left is to use violence, to attack, because the left always uses violence when they don't get what they want. That is what they have trained each other to do. They have a protest, there's always a fire, there's always looting, people always get attacked. This happens every single time. You've been seeing this for years upon years now, and most famously, obviously, in 2020, with the BLM riots across this nation, the George Floyd riots across this nation, where they burned down cities. I mean, Minneapolis, biggest example, $2 billion worth of damage in that one city alone will be destroyed for decades to come. But they don't want to talk about that. Democrats don't take the blame. They're not accountable for their own actions. It's everyone else's fault. They were innocent. How could they have possibly known that their rhetoric, their demands to burn down the system, to destroy everything, to reset everything if they don't get their way, if people don't believe what they want them to believe, yeah, that has no consequence whatsoever. That's why this kid, Thomas Crooks, who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump, that's a kid who had 7 years every day in his school, in the movies that he watched, on the TV shows he's watching, in the video games that are out there. He heard every single day, MAGA equals evil. White people are evil. Donald Trump is orange man bad. That means evil. That's what he was fed every day. And the answer to that evil, he was told for 7 years, is Joe Biden. Joe Biden's the only solution. And then he found out that Joe Biden is a mental zombie, that he isn't there, that he is a part-time president working 6 hours a day. And the very same Democrats that told him he was their savior were the ones lying to his face every single day. He felt like he had nothing else he could do. And thus he did the same that every Democrat, all of the leftists do. He resorted to violence. It's a pattern. And again, the mainstream news media doesn't want to talk about this because they want to fortify the 2024 election like they fortified the 2020 election. There are certain topics you just can't speak about, and if you do, the algorithms, the mainstream systems will downplay it. They will suppress you. I mean, this is why Google is a monopoly. As courts have now determined and admitted, which we all knew beforehand, Google is a monstrous, huge monopoly. And through their use of both their search engine and YouTube, they control what you see, what the average person will see, and what they will be able to find, because the average person isn't going to search for the news. And they know that. The average person isn't going to go through different search engines and track down different media sources from around the world. And they know that. So they will try and rewrite history, like saying that Kamala Harris isn't the border czar. Even though Axios, CNBC, MSNBC, ABC, the New York Times all said she was. They all said it. The mainstream news media told you that in 2021. We have video of that in 2021. But Google, because they're a monopoly, said that's no longer true because you might vote different if you had to evaluate the actual record of Kamala Harris and had to understand she failed. She says she wants to be strong about the border, but her record on taking care of the border is abject failure. Oh, you might change your vote because of that. So they don't want to talk about it. Let's go on. Let me go on. Because I think this is upsetting. And this is a trend we are seeing. It is continuing. It has gotten worse. We've gone from not just the protests at the colleges, but now we are seeing multiple cases over and over again as we get closer to the election, as we see the left more and more desperate, as more people are giving up on the progressive wing. The Democratic Socialists of America are losing. They lost Jamal Bowman. They just lost Cori Bush. They're probably going to lose Ilhan Omar. They are losing in elections because Americans are rejecting the extremist fanaticism of the Democratic Socialists of America. And because of that, they're panicking. And when the left panics, they get violent. And we get things like this. It happens over and over again. It is consistent and true. But that's not the only breaking news we see out there right now, because we also have the Newsweek article, which came out a little while ago, that we now have 3 debates that have been suggested for the American people. And that is what we normally get, 3 debates. Joe Biden had agreed to 2 debates, which is 1 less than what we would normally have. And, of course, he had the first debate and obviously disappeared. He's done. He's finally made the first comment in about 4 weeks. He made the first conversation with the news media, a very friendly interview that he had, and admits he was forced out. This happened because of the political elites in the DNC, the Democratic National Convention. It had nothing to do with the public. It had nothing to do with anyone's vote. The Democrats gave up on the democratic system. The rank and file voters had nothing. They had no voice. Kamala Harris was anointed, coronated as the new head of the party. Joe Biden was kicked to the curb, and we're supposed to just accept it. And Joe Biden's now saying, yeah, they did force him out. Because they did force him out. We know that. We have the statements by Pelosi, by Chuck Schumer, by Hakeem Jeffries, all saying behind closed doors. Barack Obama all said behind closed doors, and more than willing to leak it to the press, and said, hey, we're going to get rid of Joe Biden. They made a decision because they didn't think Joe Biden would win, which no one did. Everyone thought he was going to lose because we saw the truth about Joe Biden. They could no longer lie about Joe Biden. And it was obvious to the world. And so they said, oh, we're going to get rid of him. They made the decision for all the rank and file voters. They didn't ask any of them, who do you want? They've already decided it's going to be Kamala. And no one, not even the delegates in the Democratic Party have a choice. But I'm saying that, and we're detracting from the fact that what we have seen is now that Kamala Harris has been anointed, now that she has the delegates, now that the Democrats had an online vote, nothing in person, all of it ahead of their actual convention, now that everything has been settled and done, well, now she is the candidate for the Democratic Party. Therefore, she now had a conversation, or Donald Trump had a conversation and said, okay, now that you are the candidate, because it was in question up until a week ago, it was in question whether or not she would actually be the nominee. Now that she is, he's agreed to 3 debates, not 1 debate, not just 1 remaining debate that came from Joe Biden. He had a different agreement with Joe Biden. Kamala Harris isn't Joe Biden. She wants to be president. Fantastic. She has not talked to the American people. She has not put forth her policy to even Democrats. Nobody knows what Kamala Harris stands for. So, yes, it's actually a good thing that Donald Trump said he wants 3 debates in September. He wants to have 3 debates with her so the American people can find out who she is and what she stands for and what she actually will offer America if she were to be elected, because we don't know. And when I say we don't know, I want to be very clear. This is the official Kamala Harris website. This is her official presidential website. She wants your money. She wants you to volunteer. She offers you nothing. This is a bio. This is his bio. She wants you to take action. She wants you to volunteer. She's telling you where she's going to be at to get your money, to get you to volunteer, but she does not have a single policy that she has put forth in her official campaign, now going into the 4th week, 1 month of her being the coronated presidential candidate. Why would you give her money? Why would you volunteer for her? Because she's a Democrat? That doesn't mean anything. That's a political party. That's not a policy. Because she's a woman of color? That's a checkbox. That's not a policy. Because she's a woman? That's a checkbox. That's not a policy. Because she picked Governor Tim Walz? That's not a policy. What does she actually stand for? Nobody knows. So yes, I think it's actually a great thing that today we see that Donald Trump has said he wants to have 3 debates. He wants to have a debate on September 4th with Fox News. He wants to have another debate. He's agreed to the September 10th debate by ABC News. And he wants another debate on September 25th with NBC News. Now, these are the major news media channels. One of them is right-leaning, 2 are left-leaning. which seems very fair. It's actually an advantage for the Democrats. It's two of theirs. So they're going to attack. We already know that ABC News, that's Rachel Scott, someone who, during the National Association of Black Journalists, came out with one objective: partisan propaganda attacks against Donald Trump. Not to get answers for the public, but to tell Donald Trump she thought he was a sexist and a racist. That's all she had to say on that stage. You're an evil man. She didn't like MAGA. She doesn't like Donald Trump. Well, that's great for her person, but she's a journalist interviewing a presidential candidate who happened to be a former president. And besides being respectful, her job is to ask questions and get answers for the public. Not for her, not for her feelings, but for the public, which she failed. So I understand Donald Trump doesn't want just one ABC News interview, which will be biased because ABC News is biased. No. Why not have at least one friendly and have another debate? Let's have three. I think that is great news. Now, I don't know if anyone else agrees with me on that. And I'm looking at the comments here. By the way, Graham, Mike, Democrat Mike, let's go on. Because I can't see some of the other comments. I'm trying to make sure I can see all the comments. Let's see. John Cordisco is with us. And John Cordisco says, how are the Democrats going to react to the massive protests inside the, quote, real convention and outside? Maybe some delegates will raise hell then. Well, John, you make a great point. And according to several progressive podcasters like you, like myself, John Cordisco has a channel. It's the John Cordisco Corner. And there's an individual, Hard Lens Media, Kit Cabello, a former Marine like myself, who's in Chicago, actually covers it. He's a progressive, and he's going to, or he's trying to cover the event. He's expecting what I expect: riots, looting, fire, absolute chaos on the debates during the Democratic National Convention. Why? Because the public were not involved in any of this process. Because none of the issues that are important to Democrats amongst Democrats have ever been discussed. Kamala Harris received 0 votes. She made 0 appeal. The last time that she was presenting herself as a presidential candidate was in 2019, and the Democrats abandoned her. She got kicked off the stage. She ran out of money. Democrats said no. 95% of Democrats, including the progressive wing, gave up on Kamala Harris because she wasn't a good choice. We have yet to see her do anything since that time. And I would challenge anyone, Democrat or otherwise, what has Kamala Harris done that has been positive? And I will give you the answer to that. The one thing she did is she helped Democrats raise money and maintain power. Great example of that is in Tennessee, when the Tennessee trans shooter killed 3 9-year-old children. Kamala Harris went to Tennessee. She didn't go because of the children that were killed. She didn't go to the parents. She didn't mourn with them. She went to the Tennessee legislature to protect 2 Democrats who broke Tennessee law to help them maintain their positions, their power. She was in Tennessee for the Democratic Party, not for the American people, not for the moms and dads who lost their kids, not out of empathy or sympathy. No, she was there for power. That's the one thing she did that's a positive, depending on how you want to look at it. I think it's a yet another negative, but Democrats may see it differently. Progressives may see it differently because they got to maintain power in Tennessee, and that's a problem. It's so evil. So, yes, John, I do believe, and I have said it on this channel before, I say it again, I expect that we will see the Democratic National Convention. There will be riots outside, in front, throughout all of Chicago. You will see rioting. you will see looting. You will see fires. This will be done by Democrats. Chicago is a Democrat city, long held by Democrats. It's a corrupt city. It's a Democrat city. And Democrats are convening there. They do this to themselves. This will be like 1968. Riots and violence because the left is not satisfied. They didn't want Kamala Harris. The progressives don't want her. BLM doesn't want Kamala Harris. They have already rejected her. So as much as you're hearing the news media saying she's loved, as much as you're hearing the Democrat leadership say that she's the greatest thing, remember, it was the news media that told you that Joe Biden was brilliant. It was the Democratic leadership that denied you the truth, that while they were having conversations and realized Joe Biden was a zombie, they told you nothing. They lied to you because it was good for their power. So I do expect there to be riots there. Ashley is with us. Hello, Ashley. Ashley Sanders. And Ashley, new person to the channel. I haven't seen you before. Thank you for joining us, Ashley. And Ashley says, have any members of the Trump family ever served in the military? To my knowledge, no. No, they have not. Now, that's not a good nor bad thing. There is a very, very small number of people who have actually served in the United States military. It's about 5% or less of the population of the United States actually serve in our active military because it is a volunteer military. I do not hold it against anyone, whether or not they serve or not. I believe that it is calling, that you will serve because you believe it is the right thing to do. And I think most people do. This is why the Marine Corps has not missed any of its recruitment totals, whereas the Army, the Navy, the Air Force have. They have a different view of it. They're going into the military for many of the people who go into the other services are doing that so they can go to college, so they can get money. They're looking at it as a job. Whereas you look at the Marine Corps, it's a calling. So there is a difference. And that may be why I see it differently, Ashley. But my bias aside, no. As I understand, no, they have not. But then again, neither has Kamala's children, her children, her stepchildren. She has no children herself. Kamala Harris married a man who already had children, so she's a stepmom, not a mother, a stepmother. She's never given birth to children, as far as anyone is aware. So none of those kids served in the military. Tim Walz, he did serve in the military, but he also abandoned his troops, which we will get to. It's a little bit later in the show. But I can say with 110% confidence and with evidence, Tim Walz was a coward. He abandoned his troops and he lied to the American people, which is a theme we see in 2024, that we have elected officials, Democrats, elite Democrats, in high positions, in high office, lying to the American people because they want power. And Tim Walz did that, which I will show the evidence of a little bit later in the show. But the evidence does exist. It is not my feeling. It is not my opinion. It is an empirical fact. And we will go over that later in the show. I hope that answers your question, Ashley. Is there a question you have about, does that make a difference to you that no one in Trump's family joined the military? No one in Bill Clinton's family joined the military. Obama's kids didn't join the military. Most presidents and most elected officials don't have family members in the military. It's actually pretty rare. So does that make a difference for you that whether or not Trump's family is or is not military? And if so, can you tell me in the comments why? I'm not attacking you, Ashley. I'm trying to understand. I'm not sure where the question's going. And I want to make sure I give you as good an answer as I can so that we can all understand. So I do want to hear what you think about that. So Ashley, I'm looking forward to your comment. But coming back to the thought about the debate, I think it's important that in every single election, we should have 3 debates. At a minimum, I actually want more. I'd like to have 7 debates. I think they should have started the debates the second. We're going to have August, the official crowning of Kamal Harris. It's already been done online, but now we're going to get the pomp and the circumstance and the TV procession, the party to say, hey, what a celebration. It's Kamal Harris and Tim Walz. Okay. And from the day after that got done, now that we have the 2 official candidates, we have both presidential candidates, we have both VP candidates, we should have a debate the very next day. Now that it's official, we should have the very next day in August, we should have the first debate. And we should have a debate probably, I would say, once a week because of what's happening in the world right now. That's my opinion, but I'm a political junkie. At least once every 2 to 3 weeks, up until the day of the election, we should be having updates. We should have more debates. There's a lot of stuff going on. How are we dealing with Israel? Israel and also Iran. The Middle East is a powder keg right now. We need to know where these people stand on that issue. The economy, unemployment is at 4.3% and rising. Inflation is rising. We have people who are in desperate need of economic support. Where is it? What are the policies that are going to be offered that will do that for us? We have an idea of what to expect from Donald Trump because we've seen what he has done. He has a track record of 4 years. And in those 4 years, he is largely successful, except for the lockdowns, which affected the entire world. Every country in the world locked down. Every country in the world had a drop in their economic standing. Everywhere in the world. So I don't count that year. So we had 3 years of examples of how Donald Trump economically and politically deals with issues facing America. And he was largely, massively successful. That's a great thing. I have an idea of what to expect from Donald Trump. What's Kamala going to do? We have no idea. We have no answer on that. We have no success in the Biden-Harris administration, and we have no idea what Kamala Harris is going to do. It seems like she's going to try and buy off a bunch of younger people by promising to eliminate their student loans, something that legally she can't do. The Supreme Court has already said that whomever's president cannot buy off those student loans. It's illegal. And there is no law being passed by Congress saying, hey, college is now free. It's now everyone who didn't go to college is going to pay for the people who did go to college. There's no law that says that because nobody wants to do that. That's just not going to happen. I do not see that passing. But, we have a lot of questions here. Thus, I think it's important that we do have multiple debates. Of course, not everyone agrees with that because the Kamal Harris, the Harris campaign has said, nope, they're not sure they're going to do this. They're not sure. They're telling the American people, the same people who said, oh, Donald Trump, he won't have a debate, so he's a coward. Donald Trump said, I'll do a debate, but I don't want to do it with ABC. And he said, okay, let's go over to Fox News and we'll have a debate there. She said, no, I won't do a Fox News. You got to do it with only Democrats. You have to go to all the Democrat strongholds and have a debate with only Democrats. So this is the next offer from Donald Trump. Okay, so we'll go to 2 Democrats and 1 on the right. 2 on the left, 1 on the right. Let's do that. We'll have 3 debates, which is normally what candidates for the United States presidency do. And Kamala says, well, I don't know. That sounds like a trap. I don't know if I want to have 3 debates. Why not? If you were so confident, if you thought you had Trump on the ropes, why wouldn't you say yes? If you're trying to regain confidence amongst the American people, how better to do it than to actually say, here's my policies. Here's what I'm going to do if you vote for me. What is better than that? And if your policies are so much better and so much more exciting and so much more beneficial, why wouldn't you have the debate and tell everyone in America this is how it's going to work? It's going to be the best thing ever. Why wouldn't she do that? Unless she knows that she's lying to your face. Because that's what the Democrats are doing in 2024. They're lying to your face. A lot. So that covers a bit of the breaking news. Yes, I know J.D. Vance, Mike Bowie mentions J.D. Vance was in the Marines. He served in 4 years. He was in active combat. But Ashley had asked the question about the Trump family. So while Mike Bowie, you are correct, Ashley was asking about Trump's family itself. So I do want to make sure that that's clear. She was making a distinction there, not about J.D. Vance. But yeah, J.D. Vance did serve with distinction in Iraq. So there you go. Graham says, Trump will create an American university. It will be accessible online, and it will be free for citizens. I haven't seen that. Maybe Trump will. Maybe he won't. He's tried it before. Didn't work out so well for him. One of his failures. It happens. I don't know about that. I don't know if I would trust that. But we'll see. We will see. But I do want to move on, because that is the breaking news, and I think that is important news. It gives us an understanding of where we are as a nation right now. We have the far left are obviously not satisfied with the situation in the world and in our country. They are looking to become agitators. We are seeing levels of violence that are being directed at other Americans for things that are happening overseas, like what's happening. Hamas continues to hold on to Americans as hostage and torture them, and the Democrats, the progressives, are upset because we're not helping those same terrorists continue to harm Americans. It's crazy, but that's where we stand at this moment. And we see that the very same Democrats, Kamal Harris, now they're backtracking. They don't want to have the debates. They don't want to talk to the American people and go on the record with what they plan to do. They want your money. They want you to volunteer, but they don't want to give you anything for that. You just have to give it to them because, Kamala Harris is a woman and a person of color, and therefore you have to do it. Otherwise, you're a sexist racist. It's just obvious. It's kind of crazy. But we need to have these debates because things are happening around the world, kind of like what we see here. Bangladesh, a nation that is in deep trouble right now. They are going ballistic in Bangladesh. It is a 90% Muslim country. They do not want outsiders. They want uniformity. They're very much upset with the Hindu. That's the largest next population in Bangladesh, which is next to India in Southeast Asia. For many Americans who don't know where that is, it's next to India, over by Southeast Asia, and it's a huge 90% Muslim population. Next largest group, I believe, is about 5%, which is Hindu, and they have a problem with that. And so they have been rioting to keep anyone but Muslims in power. They want to minimize, they want to literally, there are some of their leaders who are saying they want to go out and kill anyone who isn't Muslim in their country. It is very, very extreme. So extreme that their ruling party, their government, just got kicked out. So it's a place in massive turmoil right now, but also the United States is involved. And the United States is involved, as we have learned, because the United States wants to have a base on what's called St. Martin's Island, which would give us a strategic position in the region, especially since it is such a hotbed, and it would give us the opportunity, as we find out in this article, that it would give us the opportunity to keep an eye on China. China already does have a base in Bangladesh. And it would allow us to be able to keep an eye on their trading. What are they sending around the world? Whether it's weapons or food or any kind of aid, we'd be able to see that. How are they preparing to militarize Southeast Asia as they fulfill their promise, China's promise, to take over Taiwan by force, threatening South Korea, threatening Japan and the Philippines with war? Well, if we have the base in Bangladesh, we're better able to see that. So the United States has been trying to get a base, a military base, on St. Martin's. Now, obviously, Democrats don't want that. They've been trying to close military bases. They've been trying to shrink the U.S. military. And they have been successful at discouraging Americans in joining the military. That's a fact. That's why the Air Force, the Army, and the Navy have all missed their recruitment totals, because Democrats, through Hollywood, through their elected officials, have been discouraging people being involved with our military. But we need to be able to see what's going on around the world. And it is alleged by the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, who is a woman, who says that, if the United States had actually gotten the base, then we would have seen more stability in the region. The Muslim population would not be rioting as we speak. There would not be this anger against the Hindus, or at least not to the same extent. And China would be subdued. This is the argument. And this brings up a question for us. Is it because of Joe Biden? Did the United States not make the deal because Joe Biden was only awake from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m., that he was only working part-time in the United States, that whomever was in charge and is in charge of the United States 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, who's running this nation, maybe they're not very good at making deals. Maybe they didn't even try. Maybe they don't think Bangladesh is that high a priority. We don't know, because it's someone who hasn't been elected. It wasn't Kamal Harris. She's not in charge. We don't know who it is. We know who it isn't. It's not Joe Biden. It's not Kamala Harris. Who's in charge of the United States the majority of the time? We have no idea. How long has someone who has not been elected, who does not speak to the public, who we don't know what their policies are, how long have they been in charge? We don't know. Could that have been the reason why the United States doesn't have a base on St. Martin in Bangladesh? Is it, as a direct consequence, part of the reason why China has been militarizing? Is that part of the reason why Bangladesh is now seeing riots and they have no true government at this time? Those are important questions. Questions that all of our allies are asking. And maybe many of them already know the answer to that. I would expect England has an answer. I would expect Europe, the EU, they have an answer. Russia knows the answer. China knows the answer. Iran probably knows the answer. They probably know who is in charge, because that's who they're talking to every day. And it's not Joe Biden. And it's not Kamala Harris. And they're seeing that person isn't doing a great job. Look at what's going on around the world. I'm just pointing out, this is what we are seeing. These are the consequences of having a weak leader who doesn't know what he is doing. Weak leaders that are not accountable to the American people. Let me see here. Graham says, Biden inherited most of his cabinet from Barack Obama. Biden is president from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. The other hours are shared by Harris, Biden's family, and the Obama allies. That's as good a theory as any other, Graham. I can't say you're wrong because we don't know. The thing we do know that is absolutely factually confirmed, that once the news media got exposed for not telling the American people important information, to tell us about Joe Biden's zombie status, well, what we did know is they immediately came out and confirmed that Joe Biden only works 5 days a week between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., 6 hours a day. That's what we know has been confirmed. No one in the news media will ask the question, who's in charge? Who's making the policies? Who's around for those other 18 hours? We saw it when the hostages, I can't call them hostages, when the prisoners, the U.S. prisoners, innocent American citizens, were returned to us. 2 American citizens were returned to us, it was 3. 3 American citizens were returned. They were innocent. Russia did this in an exchange with international prisoners being swapped back and forth. Joe Biden was on the tarmac along with Kamal Harris, welcoming the Americans after they got off the plane from Russia, having been released. Joe Biden was a zombie. Kamala Harris had word salad. She had nothing to say. I showed you this last week when we saw, and this came from the progressive hard lens media and the mainstream news media, they were commenting on it. Joe Biden was lost. It was the middle of the night. He had no idea what was going on. He didn't say anything. He looked dazed. And Kamala, well, all she could say is, everyone was unburdened. That's about all she could say. She had no idea what to say to the American people. We showed it to you last week. That's a fact. Now, Graham goes on to say, Democrats know they are voting for a dynasty group. That being Kamala Harris, the Biden family, and more importantly, allies of Barack Obama. Graham goes on to say, Republicans know that they are voting for a chief executive, which would be Donald Trump. That's the one reason Republicans are more confident right now. Well, there's actually several reasons why we should be more confident, and we have been more confident, and we will remain more confident. Like we have a track record versus candidates, Kamala, who has no track record, and Joe Biden, who has a track record of failure. So that's one thing. We have policy positions that we know and expect from Donald Trump. We have nothing from Kamala Harris. We have people who have served honorably in the military with J.D. Vance. And then we have Tim Walz, who's a coward and abandoned his troops. And we know that, one part of our country, the Democrats, are offering people who lied to American people's face. You don't have to like Trump, but he didn't lie to your face. Just didn't. Okay, moving on. Because that's just one example of international politics, which we need an entire debate. And it's my belief, we need one of the debates to be nothing but international policy. We have a proxy war going on from the Ukraine that Joe Biden has tried to commit America for 10 years to be fighting a proxy war. That's his actions. We need to have a conversation about that. We need to talk about what's going on with Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis. We have a proxy war going on in the Red Sea. For well over 8 months, we have been fighting the Houthi terrorist organization, which was previously funded by the Biden-Harris administration for 2 years. And now we have been fighting them for the last 8 months. We need to have a conversation about that. What's our Middle East policy? We have China that has been all but provoking a war with the Philippines. We have a treaty with the Philippines. What are we doing? We need to have a conversation about that. We need international politics to be a debate in and of itself. Those are 3 issues I just pointed out that are absolutely critical to the American people. They affect our economy. They affect our national security. They affect our immigration. We need to have a conversation about this. Absolutely critical that we have to have a policy, and every one of our allies and our enemies are paying attention to every decision being made about our international politics. They are waiting to see, is the sheriff back in town? Are the cops going to pay attention and enforce the law? They are looking, where are the good guys? Are they asleep? That's what the world is looking at right now. And we don't have an answer. At least, not from Kamala. So, I think it's very important. We need to have an international debate. Or rather, a debate on international politics. Will we get that? No. We won't. Because ABC News, NBC News, and yes, even Fox News does not want to have that conversation. They don't want people to realize how fragile the world is right now, how much the world has militarized under the Biden-Harris administration. Because if you realize that, you would realize that the news media hasn't done its job. And they didn't do their job because of politics, because of propaganda. And that means you'd be upset, and they wouldn't make as much money. They wouldn't have as much power. That's why they don't want to talk about it. That is strongly my belief. That's why Google changed the algorithm in January. They publicly announced, and we covered it on this channel, that they changed the algorithm to emphasize MSNBC and The View and to suppress everybody else. If you're not one of the approved mainstream sources, then you are being suppressed because they don't want to have certain conversations. Because you would be upset and they would lose power. And that's the problem. I truly believe it. But let me go on. Because what else is happening internationally that's affecting the American people, that's going to affect our children, that's going to affect our economy? Iran is about to deliver hundreds of ballistic missiles to Russia. We have a war, a proxy war that we are fighting. And we're giving F-16s and tanks and bullets and guns to the Ukraine as fast as we can. Hundreds of billions of dollars that we are giving. Mind you, we're giving the Ukraine so much money and have guaranteed to give them money for the next 10 years. Under the Biden administration, they have already guaranteed that the United States is going to continue to fund the Ukraine-Russia war for 10 years if it continues. We'll be there backing them up. And that's a proxy war. So what's Russia doing? They have Iran giving them ballistic missiles. They got China giving them missiles. China and Iran are fighting the same proxy war that we are, except they're on Russia's side, which means this conflict will not end, that the danger does not end, that these nations are getting better at fighting a war as they create better weapons faster than we are. We have a dearth. We run out of bullets, essentially. Europe has run out of bullets. China and Iran have not. We've run out of some of the weapons that we're shipping over. We have to make more of them. Russia and Iran already have them. Logistically, we are in trouble. Logistically, we are weak. And they know that. In terms, not just because of our leadership, but because of the logistics that leader has failed to take care of. We didn't ramp up. We have continued to not ramp up to be able to keep the supply for this proxy war that we are funding. We're throwing tons of money at it, but our money is worth less and less as we throw more and more at the Ukraine-Russia war. Now, mind you, I don't want Russia to win. I have lived in Moscow. I have lived in Riga and in Tbilisi. I understand what the old communist system was like. I was there in 91. I got to see the riots. I got to see the revolution. I got to be there and see the old communist system in person for a year and a half. Unlike many of these people who run around at colleges and tell kids all the time, that communism is such a great idea, socialism is such a great idea. They've never lived a day in a socialist communist state. I have, for a year and a half. So I do understand it. And I do want to see Russia lose. I do want to see Putin beaten. But that requires us having a plan that is a long-term plan that is more than just keep throwing money at it. We cannot just throw money at this situation because Iran is throwing money back. They're throwing weapons back. It's not working. This isn't a solution. The Biden-Harris administration has failed. We need an effective solution. We need a leader with a plan. We don't have that. And because we don't have that, that gives the opportunity for Iran to get better at what they're doing, which is trying to fight the United States. This is dangerous to us. This is dangerous. But no one wants to talk about that. No one wants to talk about Iran. Iran is about to attack Israel. Whether you like Israel or not, you have to recognize that Iran attacking Israel increases the likelihood of a regional war in the Middle East. That is just a fact. And if there is a regional war in the Middle East, the United States will be involved. To some degree, we must, because Iran hates America as much as it hates Israel, and it hates the EU, the European Union, pretty much as America and Israel. So there is no escaping this. We will be involved. And Iran is using its proxy because it's having proxy wars too, except it has three fronts. It has Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. They are currently doing what we're doing with Ukraine against Russia. Iran is doing with the Houthis against the United States in the Red Sea. They're having a proxy war, but they're also having one against Israel and the United States with Hezbollah and with Hamas. They have multiple fronts going, and now they're going to get involved directly. They've only done this once before in the history of Iran since the Ayatollah has been in power, which is from 1980. So we're talking over 40 years. Only once have we seen that they have directly attacked, and that was this year under the Biden-Harris administration. No, Iran has never dared to attack Israel directly under any other president because every other president is strong. Joe Biden isn't strong. He's only awake from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. He only works 5 days a week. He's a part-time president. So when he's only doing part-time, everyone, you can see these rogue nations will get away with a lot. And so we have to be very concerned, what is Iran going to do? Mind you, 5 Americans just got attacked. And this is from another one of the proxies of Iran. They're attacking America. As we are waiting for them to attack Israel and to understand how bad will it get, how much tension will rise, how much militarism will increase in the Middle East. As that's happening, they're attacking U.S. troops. They're attacking us in Iraq. The rocket attack is with Iranian rockets to attack the United States. And they have been doing this consistently, on and off. So it's not enough to say that, well, we don't have a plan. We need a plan. We have to have a plan. Whatever it is, and we have to tell the rest of the world, including our ally Israel, we have to tell people what is it that we're going to do. If we want to see Iran back down, if we want to see the Middle East calm down, at least relatively calm down for what the Middle East is, well, we need to be able to tell them what we're going to do. We have to, if we're going to be the cop, we have to tell them, here's the law. Does that not make sense? But we're not doing that. And I don't understand why. Does that make sense to people? Do you understand why I think it is so important, why we need a debate amongst the presidential candidates for 2024 talking about international policy? Because Iran is having proxy wars as well, and they're against Americans, and they're attacking Americans. Because Hamas, the proxies of Iran, have Americans they killed Americans, and they have them hostage, and they are torturing them, possibly torturing them to death. We need to have a conversation about international politics. How are we going to deal with that? We have to have a conversation about what are we going to do with Ukraine and that proxy war? What are we going to do about Southeast Asia? And this affects our economy. Are we going to spend more money on military proxy wars, which is increasing the amount of inflation in America as we print more and more money? That means poor people are becoming more and more poor as we fight more of these proxy wars. Is that worth it? I'm not telling you that it is or it isn't worth it. I'm asking you, what do you think? Is it worth it? And I understand that the majority of Americans at this moment say that, oh, we don't want to fight a war to defend Israel. That's what we're seeing. This is from August 6th. This comes from the Chicago Council on Global Affairs. So it is a left-leaning progressive organization. So take this with a pound of salt, if you will. But according to their public opinion survey, they believe that most Americans, only 4 in 10, only 40% of Americans, actually 42%, are in favor of defending Israel. It's right here. 42% of Americans favor supporting and defending Israel if it's attacked by Iran. 56%, they say, oppose this. Now, I don't know. I don't know that that's accurate. I think it's accurate and probably, again, amongst Democrats, amongst progressives. I'm sure that's very true. Maybe it's true for the Libertarian Party. I'm not even sure that it's true there. Yeah, I believe the Green Party believes that, but I'm not sure that conservatives believe that. I'm not sure that the 45% of Americans in the middle of this nation, I'm not sure that they agree with that, at least not in those numbers. I'm not sure. We need to have this conversation, folks. The world is relying on us having this, because if Iran is confident that a Democrat who has no plan, who has no ability, wins the White House, they have absolutely no reason not to attack Israel directly, because they know that a Democrat, looking at these numbers from the Chicago Council, they're never going to move forward. They're going to appease the Dearborn, Michigan Democrats, and they're going to build another pier to help Hamas get food and water and fuel and be able to continue to fight a war on behalf of Iran. They know that they will do that, therefore, they will go forward. If they think a strong leader is in charge, someone like a Donald Trump who has demanded that get the hostages back, someone who has already threatened Putin in the past and said, don't even think about invading any nation while I'm in charge, and it worked. Someone who increased the amount of peace in the world and stability in the world with the Abraham Accords, getting 2 nominations for the Nobel Peace Prize. You know what? Iran's going to have a very different opinion. Now, I know there's going to be people who say, Mike, you are so involved with the Trump administration. You're such a Republican. Yes, I am a Republican. I'm a conservative Republican. Just because I have a suntan doesn't mean I am obligated to be a Democrat. I'm not a Democrat. Never been a Democrat. Rather, I've never been a Democrat as an adult. Did I grow up as a Democrat? Absolutely. Because my mom was a Democrat. And what did I know about politics when I was 18? Nothing. But as I learned what politics were, yeah, I've been a conservative Republican consistently. So that's a different thing. But why am I pointing this out? Because that's the reality of the scenario we are facing. That is the reality of the scenario the world is looking at. These are the answers the world wants to hear because they are making decisions even as we make none. Indecision, the inability to make a policy, to give an answer, is an answer in and of itself. It tells the rest of the world there is no leadership. There is no plan. And that means that the bad guys can get away with anything they want because there's no one there to stop them. And by the time we figure out whether or not we're going to stop them and how we might stop them, they'll already have done whatever it is they want to do. Which is why we need to have these answers sooner than later. If that makes sense. And if someone says, Mike, but that doesn't make sense, tell me why. If you think it doesn't make sense what I am saying, if you think it's not important, tell me why. I think it's very important because if we allow things to continue as they are, there are going to be 3 simultaneous regional wars, as we have discussed on this channel for years now, that we have been predicting this. And we've seen Europe go off. We're seeing the Middle East set up to become far, far worse. And we're seeing Southeast Asia preparing to become also a huge war zone. We have time to change this, but we have to address this. We have to force our elected officials to give us definitive answers, to make a plan, to declare that plan internationally, to reassure our allies that we are paying attention, that we remember the treaties we have signed, and that we will stand by those treaties. I don't know. I don't think I'm crazy in saying these things. I think this is what we have to do. Because when we're not doing it, we are not succeeding. And by the way, when I said that Putin is involved in this, come on, this is going to come up. This is from the Hindustan Times. According to the Hindustan Times, and this came out 4 hours ago, approximately 4 hours ago today, China supports Iran in defending its sovereignty, security, and national dignity in accordance with the law and in its efforts to maintain regional peace and stability, and stands ready to maintain close communications with Iran. Iran was not attacked. By the way, for those who don't know, the reason why Iran wants to attack Israel is because a member of Hamas and Hezbollah were killed. Members of their proxy armies were killed. And in particular, they were killed in Iran. No Iranian people were killed. No buildings in Iran were destroyed. There was an assassination. Killed members of Hezbollah and Hamas, the proxy armies for Iran. But the Iranian people were fine. Nothing was damaged. Iran got embarrassed. That's why we're about to see. That's why Iran is trying to figure out, are they going to, when, not if, when they are going to attack Israel, and they are attacking the United States. These things are happening as we speak because Iran was embarrassed. Because Iran needs to maintain control over its proxy armies. And to be able to keep its proxy armies in line, not only do they need the support of Russia, not only do they need the support of China, but they have to show strength. And they have to attack back. They have to assert themselves amongst all the nations in the Middle East to keep control of their proxy armies, to continue to fight against Israel and the United States. So that's why this is happening. It is very, very preventable. But this isn't about Israel attacking Iran. It's Iran being embarrassed that its proxies got attacked and killed. And China, well, China's just there having a great old time saying, yeah, we back them. Whatever it takes. It's just going to keep America busy. Again, folks, do you see why I say these things? I'm not saying that you have to agree 100%. I'm not telling you you don't have a voice. I'm asking for your voice. And I know that there are politicians, members of Congress, members of state legislatures that watch this program. Their staff watch this program on a regular basis, and they're watching to hear what you have to say. Not just Republicans, not just Democrats, also third parties. They're all watching this program on a regular basis to hear what you are responding, because they know I'm asking the question no one else wants to ask. I'm talking about the issue no one else wants to address. And they're trying to gauge this. And I'm not the only one. Trust me, I understand. We're growing as a channel, and we appreciate every like and every subscription we get, but we're not the biggest. We're only in the 78th percentile across the United States in news media coverage on YouTube. 78. We're in the top 78. Huge. We're almost to the top. But we're not the biggest. We know that. But we are the 78th percentile biggest, which is huge. We are getting people's attention. We are asking the questions that need to get answers, and the politicians are paying attention. So when we say we want to hear your voice, we're not the only ones listening to your voice. They are watching. They are paying attention. That's why it's so important, folks. So I've made the case, I think, that it's a good thing that we're going to get, or we should get, 3 debates. Because we have presidential candidates, and every time we've had a president or modern history, we always get at least 3 debates amongst the presidential candidates. And it doesn't matter what Biden was going to do, he's not the candidate. So whether he was going to have 2 debates or he was going to have 150, it doesn't matter. He's not the candidate. Kamala Harris is. That means she needs 3 debates, regardless of what Biden already did, because Biden was pushing Biden's policies. Whether or not we think he was being led around like a puppet, those were his policies. She has to come up with her own policies. She has to tell us where she stands. She has to tell us what she expects to do, what she thinks she can get done. That's her job. That means 3 debates. We have to understand where does Kamala Harris stand on the economy. We know where where Trump stands because he's been president before. We understand his mindset. He's already told us he has a track record. We don't know anything about Kamala Harris and her opinion. We don't know. She says she's not for fracking. Well, in 2019, the other way around. In 2019, she wasn't for fracking. Today, she's okay with it. Well, what does that mean for the United States? Energy is the second biggest cause of inflation in the United States right now. That's a fact. The 2 biggest things that are causing inflation: Democratic spending. Well, to be fair, government spending. Let's be fair. Republicans do a lot of spending, debt spending as well. But Democrats do more than Republicans do. But it's debt spending and energy costs. The number 1 and number 2 reasons why inflation is increasing as fast as it is. Can't tell you that it wouldn't increase under anyone else, but I am telling you the reason why inflation is as high as 40%, and you know it is 40%. You go to the store, you're buying groceries, you know what you're spending, you know what your energy bills are, you know what all your bills are. You know you are paying about 40% more for everything. So you know that, and the reason for that is because they keep printing money so that they can spend it, and because the cost of energy has increased, because they're wasting time doing things like wind energy that doesn't work, solar energy that doesn't work, geothermal, it doesn't work. It's ineffective. It doesn't work. Therefore, you're just losing money. They won't build a new nuclear plant. That does work. That is proven. It can be done relatively safely. And In fact, in comparison to oil and gas and to solar and wind, it is actually more efficient and more safe and more clean than all of the rest. We should be building nuclear power plants. We're not. Because Democrats don't like them. Because Democrats think they're like guns. A nuclear power plant is dangerous. A nuclear power plant's a nuclear bomb and it's going to blow up. They think of it the same way. Oh, you have a gun. Well, a gun must be dangerous. A gun wants to kill everyone. Guns are inanimate objects. Nuclear power plants are as safe as the most recent designs. And the most recent designs are relatively safe. People say, but Mike, you have Chernobyl, you have Fukushima, you have 3 Mile Island. How many decades in between each of those are there? How many international meltdowns have happened of any size, especially the large size? Were they all because of the failure of the systems? In fact, there's been a new power plant. It was a Chinese power plant, in fact, nuclear power plant, that has now been designed to cool down with no water. It'll just cool down on its own because they learned from Fukushima. It has increased the ability to make nuclear power safer. But Democrats won't let you have any. Instead, they'd rather use rare earth metals, poison the land, clear cut the land, so you're losing the number of trees, you're losing the ecosystem that they keep promising that they want to protect. They'll clear cut the land and destroy the ecosystem so they can put up a bunch of solar panels that need to be replaced every 7 years and are toxic to the ground. That they will clear cut the land to put in wind towers and turbines that will kill birds and eagles and not be consistent, that set themselves on fire on a regular basis and are toxic when they fail and they have to be torn down. They're toxic to the ground. Why aren't we doing the most economical and effective thing that we can? Why can't, and this is one of my big things about the government, be effective, be efficient. Why are we doing things that aren't effective and efficient? You can tell me, I don't like nuclear. Fantastic. I can appreciate that. But at the same time, it's the most effective, most efficient, most clean thing that we can do. That's fact. Until we have something better, I don't have anything better to recommend. I can only go with oil and gas, which are effective, and I can go with nuclear, which is effective and efficient. Nuclear, wind, solar, geothermal, tidal, none of that is effective or efficient. Now, we have a new comment. Brock Arthur. Hello, Brock. You and Ashley, brand new people to the channel. I appreciate and thank each of you for being here with us. Brock says, nuclear. We should be building linked hydro dams. Or just dams in general. Well, I understand that, but Brock, the problem is, there's a couple of problems with dams. They're not as effective as people like to believe. It's part of the hydro, where you have hydropower, where you install basically water wheels underwater, and they turn because of the tidal movements. It's kind of like a windmill, except they do it underwater. This is one of the ideas people have. It's not very effective. And you can only dam up so many rivers. And when you do dam up a river, well, think about it. You're flooding an entire area behind the dam. That's destroying the ecosystem. And again, this is the eco-fanatic leftist point of view. They want to preserve their idea in terms of wind and power and hydro, is they want to preserve the ecology, the ecosystem. Well, a dam destroys the ecosystem. So they're not achieving their goal by actually building dams. And dams aren't the most efficient power source we have. It doesn't generate enough power, nor is it efficient enough. So again, dollar for dollar, it is actually more effective and more efficient nuclear. Again, you don't have to say that you like nuclear. I'm not trying to tell you to like it. I'm just trying to say, if we have to spend the money, and if we are trying to do something that takes the least damage to the environment, the answer is nuclear. If we're not going to go with nuclear, the next most effective, efficient system that we can use, oil and gas. Then you can talk about hydro dams, like you're mentioning. That's about fourth or fifth on the list. And then we get to way, way down on the line is solar and wind power and biogas and the rest of it. And ethanol, they're all way below. So I understand. Now, to answer you further, even though, Brock, if someone wants to say, well, Mike, if we don't do nuclear, can we build dams? Yeah, but I guarantee you, try it. Try and build a dam and watch the leftists tell you you're going to destroy the environment. You can't do that. But they'll be happy to build a solar power plant, which will destroy the same ecosystem. But they will do that in a heartbeat. But they won't let you get a dam built because it's going to destroy too much of the environment. I guarantee you. So I just want you to consider that, Brock. But it's a good question. And I thank you for asking the question. Because a lot of people don't. It's not one of the subjects that comes up. So it's a good question. Excuse me, folks. Plus, I'd ask, what would you do for the areas that don't have sufficiently large enough rivers? There's a lot of land across America. Not everywhere has access to large rivers. So what do you do for those areas? They still need power too. So there's a couple of inherent problems there. But again, at least we're having the conversation. At least we can appreciate there are more things to talk about here. It's not as simple as, well, we'll go solar and wind. That's not an answer. You're really not delving into it. But again, this is why we need a debate. This is why we need 3 debates. We could have an entire debate about inflation, the causes of inflation, and the solution to those causes. In particular being printing money and spending, and the second one being energy. I have no problem with that. We should have that debate. I want to cover, moving on, there's another problem that we're seeing around the world, and it's affecting everyone. It's part of what we see with Google having a monopoly. It's something that's affected the United States. It's also affecting the rest of the world. And we're seeing this, there's a feedback loop that seems to be going on, where in the United States, we have the progressive left in our schools teaching kids this indoctrination. Those students then go to other parts of the world, like in the United Kingdom, and they bring along their progressive ideology to these other nations, like in France, like in the United Kingdom, like in Canada, other parts of the world. And then those parts of the world, which are already far more progressive, far more socialist than the United States, they accept those ideas and push even further to the left, which then comes back, and because of entertainment, because of media, because of influence and donations and dollars to our elections, we see that they come back into the United States and help to push. The progressives look at how much further left Europe has become, how many other first world nations have become, and they want to be even more progressive. They want to be part of the crowd, because you can never be leftist enough. You can never be progressive enough. And so they're constantly chasing. So they go and say, okay, America has to become more progressive, more leftist, more socialist. It's a loop. And I don't think a lot of people think of it that way, but that is how it goes. And it doesn't matter where in the loop you start, but yes, in America, you go to Harvard, you get taught, okay, you want to support Hamas, because if you don't, you're a racist or a sexist. Okay, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, but that's what they say. And they take that idea along with critical race theory and they go and they export it into England. And suddenly in England, they're talking about slavery and racism in terms of the United States, because England didn't have a civil war. They didn't have the experience of racism that the United States had, not even close. But they adopted critical race theory, which is an American issue. They adopted George Floyd and George Floyd protests. That's an American issue. But it's because we were exporting that. That's what we taught our kids in schools, and those kids, some of them were from England initially, and some of them were exported, were U.S. Teachers and students going overseas. And they went to England, as an example, and they took the CRT, the race relation issues and tensions that they had built in, and the reparations, they brought those issues with them to England. And they spread that around in England and in France. So much so that France outlawed critical race theory, which is a fact. Macron, back in 2022, outlawed and blocked any college in France from spreading critical race theory. Could not be taught in France because it was an American issue, and Macron doesn't want to deal with America. He doesn't want to be involved with America. He wants to divest from America and become friends with China. That's what he said in March of 2023. That being said, but again, that's because our teachers, our education system, our entertainment system, the propaganda from U.S. media infected other countries, pushing them even further left on issues that doesn't have anything to do with their nations. France had nothing to do with U.S. slavery. Nothing at all. Critical race theory doesn't apply to the French government like it does the United States. It's not applicable, but yet they did. And so that feedback, and then their entertainment, their politics, their propaganda goes further left, and the U.S., the schools, see, well, they went even further left. We have to catch up. We have to push America even further left because they want to be just like Europe. Now, I have gone through that entire cycle to explain that what we're seeing right now about the First Amendment, about freedom of speech, which is a global issue, it started here in the U.S. and it is now spreading around the world, which means it's coming back to us even worse than how it started here. We have heard over and over again from individuals like Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, who have said that they want to increase the amount of exposure of the government. They want to control speech online. They want to have hate speech regulations. They want to control what people can say. We have seen that the Supreme Court has already been battling and discussing about the White House saying to social media companies certain things are misinformation. You can't talk about certain things, or you can't say them in ways that the White House doesn't like, especially in an election year. That's censorship. That is killing free speech. That is punishing people for having an opinion. And we are now exporting, and that's being taught in our colleges, at Harvard, at the highest institutions and Ivy Leagues, like in Columbia, at UCLA, at Berkeley. We're hearing these colleges come out and say, yeah, free speech, we don't need that. We need to have censorship. There are certain words you can't say, and that's spread out. We see that over in Canada, where there was Bill C-16 back a few years ago. That's where Jordan Peterson came from, where people were saying, hey, you can't say certain words. You can't speak openly. You can't share your ideas because other people, you have pronouns. You have to affirm people's pronouns even when you didn't know what they were. And you have to use these words whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, whether you value it or not. That's troublesome. And so that's how we saw Canada take it. In the United Kingdom, again, these countries don't have the First Amendment like the United States, but it got even worse. We've seen and we've reported on this channel where we've had autistic kids who are 16 being arrested by the police because the autistic kid said a police woman looked like her lesbian aunt. The autistic kid had a lesbian aunt who she loves dearly. And because she said this policewoman looks like her aunt who happens to be a lesbian, the policewoman arrested the 16-year-old. This is what happens in England. We've had priests who've been arrested. We had a woman most recently arrested because she was talking about what was happening in England. And I'll get to that. But there's a woman who is named, they tracked her down. They tracked her down and said, well, you said something that wasn't true. She says she didn't. She says that in talking about the attack of children by a guy with a knife who happens to be first generation British. Okay? He's a first generation British man who attacked children and killed them with a knife. So much for gun crime. Knife crime's just as bad. Just like here in the United States. Okay? And she talked about that, and people, as they were learning about this, thought that this guy wasn't just a first-generation immigrant, but that he was an illegal immigrant. Okay, I can understand how people would make that mistake, how they might misunderstand that scenario. Fair enough, it happens. And because she shared a post that she says she got from someone else, and she says, my post had nothing to do with the violence across this country. She didn't incite violence. She didn't ask people to attack anyone. She didn't ask people to get together in a protest. She simply said that the perpetrator, the alleged criminal who attacked the children was an illegal alien. As it turned out, he's the first generation of migrants. Okay, not a big difference. But because she said that, and now that there are riots, they're saying, well, she has to go to jail. She has to go to jail because she got a fact wrong. It's not unlike news stations getting things wrong all the time. They misreport things on a regular basis. ABC, NBC, CBS, they have often gotten the facts wrong. But because this woman, who's not with any of those agencies, got something wrong, now they want to punish her. They want to throw her in jail. We're seeing in Sweden, there is an outbreak. Sweden, which is moving center right. Their government is center right, which in America would mean they're Democrats. They're moderate Democrats. That's the comparison. Center right in Europe is moderate Democrat in the United States. And these moderate Democrats are saying, you know what? We've gone too far with illegal immigration. Open borders isn't working. It doesn't work for the United States. It hasn't worked for the United Kingdom. It doesn't work for any nation in Europe or the West. It's not working for any of these nations. Everybody has a problem. It is draining the income of every one of these nations. It is bankrupting cities. It is increasing crime. It is increasing the attacks against women. They are fed up and done with that. And so they said, so the answer is, we're going to tell people, if you know that someone is an illegal alien, that they have broken the law, and they are evading prosecution of the law, then, you know what? Tell the police and we'll arrest them. We will deport them. We will enforce the law that exists in the country. And the left are saying, oh, you can't do that. It's coming from teachers. The teachers are saying, you can't do that. Literally, it's the public works sector. In particular, it's librarians and teachers. And they're saying people will be, in a sense, terrified. Why would anyone want to go somewhere where they know that the main thing that will happen is not that they can get care, not that they can go to school, not that they can go to the library, they'll just be turned in. Let's be very clear. They're talking about illegal aliens. They're talking about people who aren't supposed to be in the country, so they're not supposed to get health care from your country. They're not supposed to be going to school in your country. They're not supposed to be in the library in your country. Everything they do is a violation of law and a drain on your country. These are criminals. And we're seeing Michelle Lavoie. This is Michelle Lavoie, who's of the Platform of International Corporation for Undocumented Migrants. So you understand where she's coming from. She's in favor of illegal aliens. She's helping to increase the number of illegal aliens because if you're undocumented, that means you have no authorization. It means you're a criminal. That's what they're talking about. Illegal aliens, criminals. She supports and she is trying to enhance. She wants to give these criminals health care. They don't have a right to that. The government doesn't have to give them that. They're not the government's responsibility. They want to go to school. It's not the government's responsibility to put these illegal aliens, these criminals, into schools. Not their job. They don't have to go and let them use the library. It's not their job. I understand that the socialists who want to help criminals, they want to increase the amount of crime in their country on someone else's price tag. They're doing that. And so what are they saying? You can't talk about this. They're making a law. You can't talk about it. They're saying the law, we want a law to do what we were elected to do, to reduce the number of illegal aliens that are destroying our country. That's what they are saying in Sweden. And Sweden and the liberals, the left, are saying, no, you have to love the criminals. We need more criminals. You have to shut up. You can't talk about this. We're seeing in England, we're seeing that the leftists, the Labour Party in England with Keir Starmer, are saying, you can't talk about illegal aliens. You can't talk about this. She got it wrong. Lots of people get news stories wrong. The news media get stories wrong. Because she got it wrong, she's going to go to jail. Really? She's going to go to jail because she got something wrong that the news stations get wrong on a regular basis. She didn't tell anyone to go and riot. She didn't tell anyone to break the law. We even see things like this with what's happening with Jordan Peterson.
What?
So Jordan Peterson he's now getting a re-education camp. Remember I told you about Canada, the C-16, you can't say certain words? Well, it's gotten to the point where in Canada, you can't have certain thoughts. Jordan Peterson, because he doesn't believe in gender-affirming care, he doesn't believe in saying that underage children should have surgery to remove their genitals before they even have puberty. He thinks that's a bad idea, that is as he puts it, a crime against humanity. That's his opinion. I don't think he's wrong. I think he's right. But in Canada, because he said that, he is now being silenced. He's being told that he has to go to a re-education, essentially a re-education camp. He has a government official that is going to re-educate him on how he can speak online. That should terrify you. He's a clinical psychologist, well respected in the field until the day that he actually let his politics be known. Very successful in his career, well educated. And now, they have to re-educate him. Literally, the Supreme Court of Canada came out and said, he can't say that. He has to be re-educated. So, let me explain. Hey, Cool Roy. Cool Roy joined us, and it's authoritarianism. I agree. They want voters and propagandists. I agree with that. But here's the thing why I think this is so important, guys. And Cool Roy, you're hitting part of it is, yes, because it's propaganda around the globe, pushing a specific agenda, shifting the world, or at least the first world nations in the world, more to the left. Yeah, that's one part of it. It's that it's reinforcing. This came from America first. It came from the critical race theory. It came from now I can't think of the word. Gender identity politics. It came from the racial politics in U.S. schools. And we've been exporting that. That has now been warped. And these other places are saying, oh, yeah, we have the same problem, even though they don't. And their solution, because they don't have a First Amendment, is let's punish people from actually speaking, for actually thinking, for actually having an opinion that isn't approved by the government or the intelligentsia, that they're having their own thoughts. So they have to punish them. They have to silence them. They have to make examples of them, even when it's something that is trying to help the country. Even though the government has been elected to protect the country, you can't say that. You can't do that. Whoops, hang on. Lost one of my cameras. Bear with me. One of my cameras just went down. That's all right. This is why I have a second camera. Nope. Or I think I have a second. Yeah, I do have a second camera. Hang on, folks. Hang on. Come on. Second camera. Bear with me, folks. Where is it? Oh. What? Give me a second. My computer's acting up. I'm trying to fix it. And of course, everything falls apart at the same time. Uh-oh. Is everything crashing? Are they crashing me? I don't know if everyone can see me or hear me at this moment. I believe my computer has just crashed. I think they have kicked me offline. I think they just kicked me off. I am trying to figure out if I am still on or not. Bear with me, folks. It looks like I might be offline. Oh, so I have sound but no visual. Okay, thank you, Brock. I'm trying to get my cameras back up. Right now, they seem to be down. I don't know why. So my system kind of crashed. Thank you, Graham. See, this is what happens when you have an opinion and it's not the approved opinion from the mainstream media. They don't like it very much. They get very upset with you. Apparently. Okay. So, just so people know what's going on here, I am. If this kicks me off, I'm going to come back. Just in case. Just in case, if it kicks me off, I'm coming back. But let me try and see if I can fix this.